Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Daphne. I'm with the Fibre Co. And we're here today to walk you through what's new, what's coming up for the spring and summer season ahead. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. As you're joining, we've enabled the chat feature. We'd love to know where you're from. If you'd put something in the chat to let us know. Or maybe you could let us know what's on your needles. What was the last Fibre Co yarn you knit with? Or if you haven't knit with any of our yarns, let us know what that is. Yes, you have not knit with any of our yarns, or you might like to. Most of you have registered in a way, and we asked you several questions as you joined, and it was really fun to learn about your familiarity with the brand, and I'll have some statistics to tell you about that if you're curious. But thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day. If you're just signing in now, Daphne with the Fibre Co. This is our spring summer 23 presentation for everything that's new coming from the Fibre Co. And let us know where you're from. Put it in the chat. It's really fun to see. I'm going to have a look here. Massachusetts, Salisbury, Maryland, Medford, Massachusetts, Dallas, Texas. Hello, Amy. Eastern Canada, Ontario, Northern Virginia, Mississippi, Minnesota, South Salt Lake City, Peterborough, Ontario. Deanna, how are you? Nice to see you. Brooklyn, New York. Lovely. Minnesota, Switzerland. Wow, lovely. Aberdeenshire and Scotland and Minnesota again. Minnesota keeps popping up. Oh, you go, Minnesotans. That's lovely to see you. Thanks for sharing. And if you want to tell us what's on your needles, we're really curious to know what are you knitting? It doesn't have to be with the Fibre Co yarn, but if you are knitting something in the Fibre Co yarn, let us know which one it is. When you registered for the webinar, we asked a few questions. We said, how many of you know us? How many of you don't know us? How many of you have been longtime fans but have never tried us? And so I'll read out those statistics, because if you're curious like me, it's an interesting thing. About 20% of you are brand new to the Fibre Co brand, and you've registered for this. Thank you for your interest. We really appreciate it. 40% have used the Fibre Co yarns once or twice in the past. Another 10% have never knit with the Fibre Co, but they have been fans for a while, and 30% are frequent, long-term users and fans of the brand. So that was really fun to get your feedback, and thanks for putting your answers into the survey that we asked when you registered. It's really nice to see that. We have some neighbors from not too far away. I am located in northern England, in the county of Cumbria, and in a national park. It's called the Lake District National Park. It's really a beautiful place. There's lots of lakes, as the name would indicate, and there's also lots of hills. So we do a lot of what we call fell walking, and we do water sports on all the lakes. And it's a very green, lush area, and that's really because we get lots of rain. It's a relatively mild winter, but we can get snow, and oftentimes there's lots of snow on the mountain tops, and it's great place to, if you like knitting, because basically we wear wool all year round. We always have chilly evenings in the summer, an occasional heat wave or two, but it's a really lovely corner of the world. And that's where we are. And if you've just joined, I'll welcome you and we'll get started. My name is Daphne with the Fibre Co. This is the Spring Summer 23 webinar that shows what's new, what's coming up in the way of designs. So let's get started. Here's what we're going to go through. Since we know that so many of you are new to us, we do have just a really short introduction on the Fibre Co. Some things that maybe even if you've been around for a while, you might not know. And then we're going to run through our new design collections and see what we can get inspired to knit this season. Some new yarn shades we're going to show you. We're going to tell you about our Mara bags. And then there's going to be a chance to win prizes. and there's going to be a chance to ask some questions. Before we jump into all of that, I'm going to tell you what the prizes are in just a second, but here's just a bit of background about the Fibre Co. We began in 2003. So what does that mean? This is our 20th anniversary this year. We've been at it for 20 years. And we started with a tiny mill. That's a picture of me 20 years ago, mixing up fiber on the floor. That was a big pile of alpaca fiber. And so we began in Portland, Maine, in the US at that time. And we had lots of raw fiber, a small mill, and a desire to create unique artisan yarns. And so if you take that and you fast forward to today, where we are operating, as I mentioned, in the England's Lake District, we don't make our yarns, we don't mill our yarns anymore, but we still source bespoke yarns. And we do that working with mills, partner mills in Peru, and also here in the UK and in Ireland as well. Our main focus is on what we call the backbone of the industry, local yarn shops, those wonderful places that you love to go to and sometimes spend hours trying to pick out your next project or take classes. Many of us have learned to knit at the local yarn store, and that's really core at what we do. And then finally, another big core part of our being is the close connection we have with the independent designer community around the world, both in commissioning designs and providing yarn support and championing their efforts. And it's something that we pride ourselves in, that we work with a really diverse group of designers everywhere. What about those prizes, though? Let's not forget those before we go on, because you're going to have to do something for the prizes. You're going to have to submit a correct answer to counting the yarn balls. If you've been with us in the past, you might remember this. And it's not easy. I mean, you'd think that just seeing a yarn ball and counting would be easy. And I'm going to help you this time, because while we do get a lot of correct answers, every now and then I'm going to say, oh, there's a yarn ball. Now, these two yarn balls here don't count, but when you see something that looks like one of these yarn balls throughout the presentation, start counting. And this is what you have a chance to win. There are 3 prizes, and we're going to go through these designs that you see here in just a moment. But after this slide that I'm showing you right now is where the counting starts. So put some little ticks down on a piece of paper, mark them off, and at the very end, we'll put out a poll question. You'll get a chance to answer that. And from that poll question, we will select winners at random, whoever answered the question correctly. Is that all right? And I promise I'm going to help you. Every now and then when I glance at a slide, if I see that there's a ball there, I'll say, oops, there's a ball. So I won't do it for all of them, because I probably won't see them all myself. But for those that I see, I'll let you know, okay? Let's have a look. Let's dive in and look at the first of our new design collections, the Almanac Series II. The Almanac Series is the Fibre Co's guide to knitting around the seasons. And it's just a way for us to kind of really focus ourselves and say, well, it's January, what do we want to do? It's February, what do we want to do? This season for spring, summer, we have a new series in the Almanac coming out, and it has just been released last week. And the first of the designs I'd like to show you is right here, the Rising Star sweater. Isn't it pretty? It's a drop shoulder sweater. It has this lovely wide neck and lots of beautiful lacy texture. It was designed by Elena Dimchevska. And you can see the name of this design, Rising Star, in that panel, that lacy panel that goes up the side of the center of the garment. It's knitted in our Zero yarn, and it really is an incredibly soft garment, one that you can wear next to your skin. The color that this sample is in is called Ghost Dunes. It's worked from the bottom up in the round to the armhole, and then it's separated. And then each piece is worked separately. The sleeves are done by picking up when you finish around the neck and going down. And the hems all have a 2x2 rib on them. We're calling this an intermediate level knit because of the 2 lace patterns, the one in the panel and then the all over lace panel. A little bit more about Ciro, the yarn that's knit in. Well, it's a fancy yarn. It's what we call fancy yarns in the industry. Fancy yarns are knit on fancy machinery. And that just means that it's something different than a typical drawn out groupings of fibers and twisted. And in this case, this yarn is made up of organic cotton at its core. There's an organic cotton thread. And then around that thread, we wrap Surrey fiber and merino fiber, and it goes through a fancy machine and it gets brushed. And we use both a white cotton core and a black cotton core. And the shade here that you see has a black cotton core. The Ghostun shade that you saw in the Rising Star sweater had a white cotton core, so you don't really even notice that it's there. But because 40% of the blend of this is organic cotton, that's a lower cost input, and it's a very reasonable yarn to knit garments with. So that's just a little bit about Ciro. I've gone too fast here, sorry. This is the next one up in the Almanac Series II for spring summer, the Vesperia shawl. Designed by French-Canadian designer Emily Hallett. It's a really stunning shawl. It features two patterns, two different textured patterns. It's knitted in our Acadia yarn, and because it's knitted in Acadia with the high alpaca and silk content, it's really drapey and it's weighty. There are 6 skeins used in this, so it has a really nice weight to it, and it's just really perfect for wrapping. Vesperia, I believe in French, means like evening song or an evening prayer session kind of thing. So the idea is that as the evening draws in and you get chilled, you can wrap this scarf around you for some lovely warmth. This color shown here is called sugar maple. And like the Rising Star sweater, this Vesperia shawl, I just wanted to mention a little bit about the model. This is pro-age model Elizabeth Joseph, and she is on Instagram as the menopause guinea pig. So if you'd like a little bit of a laugh, Liz she's full of laughs. And so check her out on Instagram as the menopause guinea pig. She refers to herself as a pro-age model, and she's a bit of a comedian, and she was lovely to work with. So check out Liz. A little bit more about our Acadia yarn that the Vesperia shawl is knit in. This is one of the yarns that, oops, I see a yarn ball. Have you been counting your yarn balls? Here it is. That's at least one. I don't know if one came up before or not, but I think there could have been. But anyway, I've just noticed it, so I'm pointing it out. The Acadia yarn is one of the yarns from our early days when we had a mill and we used to experiment in the dye pots and that sort of thing. And the Acadia base color uses a brown alpaca and a cream colored silk noil, which is a real nubbly form of silk. And it uses natural cream base in merino. And when you use all those different textured fibers and colors and take those to the dye pots, you can get some really interesting results. And so that's the genesis for Acadia. It's a DK weight yarn, and all those different fibers are what can help us create these lovely soft duotones. Most of the shades are hand dyed. If they're not hand dyed, then they are fiber dyed and mixed together as different colors. The next design in the collection for the Almanac series is called the Cassini sweater. And it has a really lovely A-line shape, which I think most of us find a bit flattering. It is knitted in our Luma yarn, and it has these 3 blocks of colors that are separated by these striking thin lines of a contrasting color. Here we're looking at the colors Breton from the bottom, then Chambray, and then the top is Pearl River. And the contrasting orange color you see there is called Pumpkin. This is knitted bottom up seamlessly in the round, and then you stop right here at the armholes. You then start your sleeves. They're knitted flat, and then you get to the armholes of the front and back, you join the sleeves on, and then you continue by knitting the yoke in the round from there. And on the shoulders are these really pretty little lace patterns. The Luma yarn, a little bit about Luma yarn. This is another one that takes us back to the early days of the mill, where we used to experiment with fibers and the idea of mixing both plant and animal fibers. And that's definitely Luma, because we have 50% organic cotton, and we also have merino wool, and we have linen, and we have missing one, silk. And you take all those fibers, mix them together, take them to the dye pot, so you can get some really interesting effects. Loom is a DK weight yarn, and it was also with its heavier organic cotton in the blend. You can get a lighter weight garment or fabric that allows you to knit things that go into most seasons, unless you live in really the hottest of climates. Next up is the Astra shawl. The Astra shawl is knitted in our amble yarn, and it is. There are three main sections. This is a really great shawl for a beginner, because there's just three main sections. They learn a lot of techniques. There's a plain garter stitch section, there's an eyelet section, and then there's a lace edging. This is shown in the shade Scafell Pike. And it's quite an easy knit, just a few eyelets. If you're just beginning with, wanting something lacy, the eyelets, you have a lot of chance to practice those yarn overs there. And then when you get to the lace edge, it'll also teach the ability to read lace charts. To keep a nice stretchy edge on the lace edging, there's a special technique taught in the pattern called the suspended cast off. So that's a good one to learn. I mean, you're not an absolute beginner, but you should be, at the advanced beginner level, you wouldn't have any problem with this shawl. Now, what about amble? What is this yarn amble all about? Well, we created it for our first true sock yarn. So it's a fingering weight yarn, but it can be used, as you see in the shawl there, for anything that you would knit in a fingering weight yarn. Why do we call it a sock yarn? Well, because we use some special fibers in it. Most sock knitters would like to have a sock that can be machine washed and that will last long. So they're always wanting those two things. What makes it durable and last long? Often it is believed that nylon does that. We always stayed away from those because the traditional superwash process does use a lot of chlorine in creating a yarn that is superwashed. But we have used something called an easy wash process that uses a natural enzyme. And that is how we make the merino washable and the alpaca washable. Then we use, instead of just a pure nylon, we use a recycled nylon because that had better eco credentials for us, and we felt better about using that in the blend. So that's our amble yarn. One more design to come out, and I don't know, I like them all, but this is a favorite, and I could really see myself knitting and wearing the moonbeam top, which is a lovely sleeveless top and some super subtle details. It's knitted in our meadow yarn, and our meadow yarn, I'll tell you a little bit about in a second, but it does have really great drape, but also some good stiff stitch definition to show you those subtle details. This shade that you're seeing here is called Sherry Blossom. It's knitted seamlessly from the top down, and the designer, Claire Mountain is really just, she shows off how good she is and just how she created the construction, because the back neck is cast on first, and it's increased at each edge until you get to the full width of the shoulders. And then the upper back is then worked flat to the bottom of the armhole, and it incorporates some armhole shaping. And then the stitches are then put on hold, and the front shoulders are picked up and knit back down. And just the way she has done all that means that you're going to get a really nice fit for a human body, not a square robot body, but a human body with its slopes on the shoulders and the way you want it to fit nicely around the armhole. So Claire is a terrific designer, and she really knows how to make something fit well. And the way she's designed this really shows that off. The little V in the front and the small eyelets around the ribbing. And although I don't have a back view here, there's also a really cute little split right in the middle on the lower hem with the moonbeam top. So this would be at an intermediate level based on all of those construction details that I just described. Now, what about our meadow yarn that makes this so special? Well, it's a lace weight yarn, so it's great for things like summer tops and shawls. And the fiber content of baby llama and silk and linen and a little bit of merino too means that it will have really good drape, but the linen gives it nice kind of crispy feeling, and the stitches will be well defined because of that. And we use hand dyeing techniques for many of the meadow shades, so we have some subtle duotones, and but there's also more saturated colors as well. We don't always dye the linen, so sometimes you can see in the darker shades where the linen keeps its natural color and the other fibers have the dyed colors in them. One of the greatest things about knitting with something, a yarn like meadow, is that it is lace weight, but we say it's a heavy lace weight, so it can go fast. You can knit it on different needle sizes, but there are 500 meters on a 100-gram hank, so it goes a long way. Okay, what's next up? And Make. New designs for And Make. If you've been around the Fibre Co before, you may say, what's And Make? Well, it's a new range of yarns that we released last year in the autumn season. And basically, And Make was born out of the fact that there were millions of new knitters that came to us and crocheters during the pandemic. And most new knitters I know will say, don't want to use a good yarn or spend too much money on the yarn until I get better at knitting, and your yarns are lovely, but let's wait. And so we said, what can we do to be there for these new knitters? Because when a new knitter or an advanced beginning knitter does discover a yarn like the Fibre Co, they go, oh, yeah, I'm not going back. I want to knit with this. I want to feel this good every time I pick up my knitting. So we said, how can we create a yarn that is still natural fiber, still really beautiful palettes, well-considered palettes that could be more for this group, or potentially returning people to yarn crafts. So our idea was to still create natural fiber yarns, but make them more affordable. And in fact, the prices on our And Make range are 35% less expensive than our other luxury yarns, taken as a whole, as an average. So we launched 3 ways. Oh, there's a yarn ball. I keep forgetting. Well, I don't think I'm seeing them, but if I see them, I'll call them out. Here's the yarn ball. See that? Upper right corner. Count this one. There were 3 weights of And Make launched last autumn. There's an Aran-weight, which is super popular, and it's a 50-50 blend of what we call Highland wool, not from the Scottish Highlands, but the Peruvian Highlands. Also, there's 50% alpaca in there. Then there's a super bulky that's 100% Highland wool, and there's a DK weight that's kind of looks like our meadow yarn, but it doesn't have silk and it doesn't have baby llama, but it has some alpaca, it has some merino, and it has some lovely linen again. So you get that really nice texture in the final fabric. Let's take a look at what we've done. Hair Necessities, we're calling this one. And this is designed by Becky Baker, who works with us here. She's our design project manager, and she gets involved with a lot of our designs. And she proposed this idea for a small project. There are 3 different knit styles, or patterns, I should say, knit patterns for this duo of a headband and a what? Scrunchie. Yeah, scrunchies. Those were the days. Certainly my prime years in the 1980s was all about wearing scrunchies. They went out of style for a few decades, couple of decades maybe. Now they're back, and so we've got them for you. And they're really simple to knit and they're fun. So what we decided to do is create 3 different textured patterns, and I'll just walk through them here. This large image here shows a simple garter stitch and stocking stitch, a headband and scrunchie. And here we have a lovely mock cable version. And then you can see all 3 of them here. Which one am I missing? The mock cable. Oh, this pink one is just some garter and a slip stitch pattern. And this is knit in the And Make DK. So how many can you make? Well, if you have one ball, there are 6 sizes that we've created for the pattern. And if you have one ball, you can make one scrunchie and one headband for sizes 1 to 3. But if you have 2 balls, then you can make one headband and 2 to 3 scrunchies in sizes 4 to 6. Or you can just use one ball and make 2 scrunchies, whatever you want to do there. The headband is knit flat, and then when you come to the end, you twist it and you sew it together. The scrunchie is just a knit in the round, and then if you imagine taking your elastic and putting it around that, and then grabbing the 2 ends of your tube and stitching them around, and then closing it up, and there's your scrunchie. So it's pretty straightforward. Not everybody likes to sew, but we're going to have a video tutorial to show you how to do that. And one thing I haven't said about our and make range and the patterns yet is that our style of patterns is really different from our traditional style. So there's lots of tutorials. They're kind of jargon free. We're assuming somebody's new to knitting and needs a little extra help working their way through patterns. So we've written the patterns in a super user-friendly way. And it kind of begs the question, why don't you do all patterns that way? But some patterns are quite involved, and they would be maybe 50 pages long if we did all patterns that way. But this is just another look at the Aran-weight DK range here. You can see close up that there is this lovely texture just from the linen. And the lighter the colors, the more difficult it is to see the difference in the linen. But yeah, that's Aran-weight DK and hair necessities. And in the bulky, what did we do? We did some crochet baskets. Working with Lindsay Nunes, who's a terrific crochet designer here in the UK. She did a piece for us last summer, and she came back to us and proposed this basket project, which we took her up on. The Nesty Basket Bunch, 3 different sizes, and with the small, medium, and large. And it has this really fun little spike stitch across the rounds just to give it some extra interest rather than just stripes. And there's 3 colors here. And with these 3 colors, you can use using 2 balls of the main color, and whichever one you want, and then 1 ball of the 2 contrasting colors, and that will give you these 3 baskets. So it's pretty versatile in this bulky yarn. And here's some other images here that you can see close-ups of. Use them to put your plants in, or store a big yarn ball in, or maybe some kind of toiletries. Have a bit of fun with them. And these are the Nesty Basket Bunch in Aran-weight Super Bulky. Next up is pillow possibilities. This is in the Aran-weight version of Aran-weight. And kind of like the hair necessities with 3 different stitch patterns, we stayed with that idea, and we have just a lovely simple garter stitch texture. We have a basket weave texture, and then we have one with a cable coming up the side. And taking I should probably mention here that the shade names, in case you're interested. The top color here is called Aquaman, the middle one is called Spill the Tea, and the bottom one is called Betty White in Aran-weight Aran. And 3 balls will make 1 pillow. And yeah, we had a lot of fun shooting this. Aran-weight Aran, there it is. 50-50 baby alpaca, not baby alpaca, alpaca, and 50% Highland wool. Okay, next one in the collection is called the Style It Eyelet Shawl. And so if you are new to lace knitting, this has got to be the project for you, because it is uber beginner friendly, teaching you a very basic knit stitch with lace, and many options. So let's walk through the Style It Eyelet Shawl here. The first one we did was in this simple one color version. And then we've got one with which has the narrow stripes. And then we have one where you are making more of a color block. This again is in our DK weight yarn for Aran-weight, the one that has the linen in it. And that's the Aran-weight collection. How am I doing for time? 30 minutes. Oh, great. Terrific. We're doing well. I don't see a yarn ball here, so we're good. By hook too, by hook. Last year we did by hook. We didn't call it one, but it was our inaugural crochet collection. We had a terrific response to it, so we did it again, by hook 2 this year. And we just had a photo shoot for it, and let's show you what we've got coming. The first one, and for those of you who might be closer to my generation, you might, and have fond memories of the 70s and such, you might relate to some of these garments names. Wild Child Cardi. So yeah, we all did granny square cardigans back then, and they're a thing again. So we did our version of it, and this is knit in our amble yarn. And it's really just a bunch of crocheted granny squares, but on the bottom of the hem and the bottom of the sleeves and the garment itself, the body of the garment, you have this nice block of color with the bright yellow. And the amble color palette, oh, there's a yarn ball. See that one? Right here. Okay. Don't miss it. Write it down. Okay, and then the next one is the Way Over Yonder tapestry. Anyone a Carole King fan and recognize that? We have this tapestry, this lovely little tapestry, very simple to make, doing tapestry crochet, and a beautiful color palette of these 5 colors here, or sorry, 4 colors here. And many colors in the palette of Luma that could be used for this fun little project. And then we've got the Good Vibrations throw over. This is back in our amble yarn again. So this was the one that we made for sock yarn. We had that lovely shawl, the Astra shawl that I showed you earlier. And here's another throw. Really easy to put this one on and just wear it over anything. Next one is the Drifting Away pillow, back in our Luma yarn in these 3 colors, and then a 4th color in the tassels on the corners, but you could certainly use one of the other colors for those tassels to get that done as well. Oh, yarn ball, there it is. Okay. Then we have a lovely summer top. Just really like the way this one turned out. The Wavelet vest. This is in our meadow yarn. And then we have the beachy bucket hat. Back to Luma yarn that this one is knit in. Small contrast details, but you could do it all in one color very easily if you didn't want to do a contrasting color. So let's have a little summary. But before we move on to the summary, don't forget to count this yarn ball. Okay? Now, summary of the new designs. The first we showed you was the Almanac Series II. There's a Ciro, Acadia, Luma, Amble, and Meadow design. These have all launched. They launched last week on the 4th of February. The patterns are all available on Ravelry, and they're also available on our website. SS23 Aran-weight. We have the pillow possibilities, the crochet basket bunch, the hair necessities, the stylet eyelet shawl. All of those are knit with the exception of the nesty basket bunch, which is a crochet. Oh, did you catch that ball on the last slide? And then the summary of the by hook. These are all crochet patterns. This comes out April the 20th. Did I mention the date the Aran-weight launches? I don't think I did. Aran-weight launches April 6th. And the By Hook 2 collection launches April 20th. Now I have another little surprise to show you here that we're going to be focusing on, because back in the pandemic days, we weren't able to get together and do photo shoots. So we had, Ciro had just come out, and we had an inaugural collection for it called the Atmosphere Collection. And these were the 3 most popular designs in that collection, but they were never modeled. So we said, when we did our spring summer 23 photo shoot last year, we said, let's bring a couple of those atmosphere patterns and take them to the shoot and let the models wear them so we could show off just how beautiful they are on something other than a mannequin. And it really does make a difference. So the Ostrina sweater, the Umbriel sweater, and the Patera sweater, these modeled shots are out there and they're in the pattern, and they really do make them come alive. So check them out. They're really great. They're very economical projects because of how cost-effective Ciro is, and that there's a lot of yardage on the 50-gram hank, so it goes a long way. Now, I just want to focus a little bit on some new yarn colors, because if you are fans and you know Ciro, we have 6 new colors. We also have 4 new colors in amble, so just show you what they're like. And it gives me a chance to talk about Ciro. Oh, there's a yarn ball. Yep. Okay. Gives me a little bit of chance to talk a bit more about Ciro, because it's a fun yarn. I mean, some of you have probably heard about combining yarns like a kid mohair and silk yarn that's brushed, and combining it with a light fingering or lace weight merino to get a substantial weight of fabric for a garment. Well, Ciro, because it has that organic cotton core, is quite structural, very not thick. It's a sport weight yarn, but with the fuzz that comes from brushing it, it fills out. And I've seen it knit in many different needle sizes, and it can create some really lovely fabrics. And so that is one of the most special things about Ciro. Here you can see all of our 6 new colors have the black cotton core. And the other thing that we did with these is that the Suri alpaca and the merino, we did what we call, they are heathered yarns that we dye multiple colors of those fibers, blend those together. So there's really a lot of depth to all the colors, all of these 6 new colors. From the one on the left, Nebula, which is a bit more subtle, there's a little bit of a pink in there and a little bit of a very faint blue. You can't see it too much, but there are multiple colors of dyed fibers that then get wrapped around that black organic cotton core. And then Faith on it's, woo, lots of things going on there. We've got teal and we've got orange and we've got, yeah, different types of blues and oranges mixed in there to get this really lovely color. I think it's one of those colors that when it gets knit up, it's going to depend on the light that you're standing in, whether it looks more blue, more gray, or, you know, blue with bunches of orange showing up. And then the Galaxy shade has a few different shades of pink mixed in with some black. And then the Mars is a lovely red, but there's a depth to that red, not only because of the black cotton core, but also because of there's pink with the 2 different red shades. And then Glow is quite a traditional color. If you're familiar with some of our other yarns, like our Cumbria range, we have a color there that's the most popular one called Buttermere. This kind of falls into that range with some yellows mixed in with some brown. And then Dark Matter is some teal and black and blue, navy blue, all mixed together. So these are new, and guess what? They just arrived in the warehouse, literally. They were, unfortunately, our friends in Peru, where this yarn is made, and all the difficulties that they've had with the protests there, we were not really sure when the yarn would come. It did get stuck en route, but we've got it and we're grateful, and we wish them all the best there for sure. Amble. This is not final photography, because you'll notice the one on the right is really a thick yarn, but that's a color in another one of our yarn ranges that is the same color that we're having here in Amble. So we have this lovely hollyberry color on the left, and a Blencathra color, and cream heather, and Hadrian's Wall, and the last one is Washed Water. That should be 2 words. It's not wastewater. And I'm going to tell a story about Washed Water. Washed Water is one of the beautiful lakes in the Lake District. So I'm calling it, oh, there's a yarn ball too. So count that one. Don't forget that. But yes, wasp water should have a space in between the two words. It's not wastewater. It's a beautiful, brilliant blue. And we have it also that same color in our tundra range, although it's called something else in our tundra range. So, all right, now for something totally different. Mara bags. What are Mara bags? Well, a couple of seasons ago, I don't know how long ago it's been, we created something we call the Mara bag. And it was a collaboration between myself and a designer and a surface designer. The three of us got together. The surface designer created this amazing print for us, a really beautiful paisley print with 20 different colors in it. The designer was great at kind of bringing my ideas to life in pattern form. We did a Mara bag, and it's quite what I'd say a celebration of craft and skill and a desire to make something beautiful, make it by hand, make it locally here in Cumbria. And so we call it Beautiful Bags for Makers by Makers. And we had an original version of the Mara bag, and then we got feedback from makers, and we went back to the drawing board and we improved those. And so I'm going to walk you through what those three are. And we do have, they're basically limited edition runs. We don't have a lot in stock, but we do have some. And we're now doing a steady kind of production so that most of the shades that we work with are available at most times. And we'll always be adding new shades and maybe canceling shades. So it depends on what's available to us as well. We'll show you the bag first. This is the bag. It originally launched in 2019, was pre-pandemic. And then we redesigned it after feedback to include 2 internal pockets. And there's also an inner drawstring to it. So inside of here where you see the paisley fabric, there is a drawstring cover in there, but there's also, which you can't see here in this photograph, a leather tab that closes magnetically to keep the bag kind of safe. It can hold comfortably 600 grams of yarn. The fabric is 100% wax cotton fabric on the outside. That printed lining is a 60-40 blend of linen and cotton, and the straps are leather. We have dimensions available. They're all on our website, so have a look at those there. Then we also added a tote. When we relaunched the Mara bag, we brought out a tote. It's a little bit bigger. It can hold 800 grams of yarn comfortably. And there are 6 internal pockets, and the straps are leather, and it has the same type of leather closure, although the model's elbow is hiding it on this photograph. Same fabric composition, and I think I already mentioned that it can hold 800 grams of yarn. The Mara pouch is last. You can keep 100 grams of yarn in here for smaller projects, or maybe just use it for a tool pouch, depending. We've had people really like these bags and tell us they have nothing to do with knitting, but they bought a bag because of some other use that they wanted to. Couple of people I know bought Mara bag just for a handbag or a person. Totes have been used by, they're probably the most easy one to use for different, but even the pouch, some people using it for kind of toiletry bags and that sort of thing. So take a look. Here are the colors that we generally have. These 7 colors, but they go in and out of stock, so we don't always have them in stock at all times. Phew, okay, let's see now. There's a ball, and guess what? I think, yeah, that was the last one. So did you count them? I am now going to launch a poll. So give me a moment to get the poll launched, and you can put your questions in there. Sorry, your answers in there. It's multiple choice. So hopefully you see your answer. All right, there's your poll. How many yarn balls were there in the presentation? 5 choices. Answers should go into the poll. We can't accept your answer if it comes into chat. Please don't put your answers in the chat. We won't be counting those. You will have to answer the poll in order for your name that you registered with to be put into a random draw. So we'll just give a couple more seconds. These are the prizes. So we walked through these earlier. I'll just remind you what the prizes are so you can be having some wishful thoughts over the next hours. We'll get to the poll or to the prizes tomorrow and send a notification to the winners. But on the left is a reminder, this is our Acadia yarn in the Vesperia shawl. In the middle is our amble yarn in the Astris shawl. Both of those designs are from the Almanac Series II collection for spring summer. And then on the right in our Make DK weight, it is the Stylet Eyelet shawl. And remember that that's the one where the pattern is written, so you can make this lovely solid color or narrow stripes or big color block version of it. So these are the three prizes that can be won. I don't see any more answers coming in, so I think we probably have it done. So I will go ahead and end the poll. Okay, the poll has ended, and just downloading the results to make sure I don't lose that, which I've just done. Good, so that is done. And I'm just going to now say we've got some time for question and answer. So usually I talk a lot more and we don't have much time for question and answer, but somehow today we ended up with, despite those 60 slides to walk through, some time. And I see two questions in here. Linda Rose has asked or said, please discuss any pilling probably and gleaning resulting from Ciro. It is lovely and I wonder how it wears and looks with some regular rotation in a wardrobe. Yeah, I think Ciro works really well. I mean, being a brushed yarn in general, I think I find with brushed yarns, if there is, pilling, it hides itself pretty well. I think you have fewer problems with pilling with brushed yarns than others. And because of, in our case, we have Surrey alpaca in use for one of the fibers that is wrapped around the core. And Surrey alpacas, if you don't know your alpacas, there's two types of alpacas. There's a Surrey alpaca, that's a breed, and there's one that's called a Huacaya, that begins with an H, Huayca, something like that. Surrey versus Huacaya. Well, Surrey fibers are the ones, if you've seen pictures of alpacas, they're the ones with the dreadlocks, the really long dreadlocks. And so the fiber itself is really long. And anytime you have long fibers, the longer the fiber, the less pilling that you have in general. And merino, being, a fine fiber and with lots of crimp, will curl and do, tuck its ends in. So that's what you're looking for. And so that works really well. I would say that you're not going to have any problem. I was really pleasantly surprised because when we pulled out from the Atmosphere collection that I mentioned, those 3 garments to add them to our photo shoot for this season, because they were never modeled, they had been in rotation on trunk shows for a couple of years. And I was really pleased because I often don't have a chance to work with garments that have been, once they've been photographed and moved on. But so here it was, I was, working with these garments. We had brought them back to HQ here to include them in the photo shoot. I pulled them out and they look terrific. So, they get a lot of wear on trunk shows. So yeah, so that's good. Thank you, Linda. And next on the list is from Ian. Just a bit of info for you. Wastwater is, thank you, is the deepest lake in the Lake District and the farthest west, which is why it is called Wast, which is a Cumbrian term. Yes, has nothing to do with waste. Thank you, Ian. Okay. And Helen, are you doing any video tutorials on Fair Isle type knitting? Do we have anything in the works with Fair Isle, and what do we have already? I don't think we do. And in particular, because we don't really have any Fair Isle in this season, I don't think we have anything planned imminently. But we do have a lot of designs in our catalog that have Fair Isle. And, maybe it's time that we do. But Helen, yeah, if you have like something specific, that if you have a specific question on, you know, if anything you're doing like a fair isle piece and you want some help with it, you know, just send us a note. And we have an email. If you ever have trouble with any of our patterns, just patternsupport@thefibreco.com, and we'll get your question answered or send you to a resource at least. So let's see what else. Anything else? Yeah, that's great, Ian. Thank you for letting us know about Wastwater. That's really great. Anything else here? No, I don't see any other questions. And gosh, only thing left to do is really just to say thank you very much for joining us. I'm always just humbled that anybody wants to come and hear us talk about what we do. It feels so selfish sometimes to just make it all about us. And really, we're here for you. And our greatest pleasure here comes from knowing that what we do and create can bring a lot of joy to other people. So, and by you showing up here on these webinars that we hold, and sometimes we do classes, and sometimes we do knit-alongs in this way, it's just terrific. And we love having you here, and we hope to inspire you. For those, what was it, 20% of registrants who are brand new to the Fibre Co, I hope you learned something. If you have any questions about anything, you know, do get in touch. And for the rest of you who know us in some way, whether you've used us or not, we thank you for coming here again and hearing what we had to say. I don't know if you have spring in your corner of the world right now. I mean, I'm wearing these knitted mitts still, so it's not too spring-like, but every now and then there are snowdrops out, and there's a few daffodils trying to poke through. You can see a couple of green shoots coming up, and it will be spring soon enough. So we hope that we've inspired you for some of your spring and summer projects. And the Almanac Series collection is out as of last week, and the other collections will be coming out in April. So we hope that you found something that you like. Thank you very much for joining us. And if there are no more questions, oh, hold on. No, there's some more questions. Okay, Nora, your canopy fingering has been discontinued. It is beautiful yarn. Which of your yarn has taken its place? Yeah, so fingering, because it's a fingering weight, you can go to either Cumbria fingering or you can go to Amble. Both of those are our two fingering weights in the line. Different color palettes, then canopy fingering, and definitely different blends, not as much drape. Potentially Amble has similar drape, not really Cumbria fingering, because canopy fingering had a beautiful bamboo from viscose in that blend of merino and alpaca. So it's not exactly the same, and it's a different weight. Different blend. Oh, the ball count, Carol, it was 15. So hopefully all of you who answered 15 can get a little bit more excited about now the fact that you will be put into a random draw to win one of the 3 prizes. So yeah, thanks for asking. I certainly should have said that. And I'll just check to see if there's anything else come through. I have some colleagues on the call. If any of my colleagues have seen anything come through chat, and yay, 15, Helen says. She must have put in 15, and yes, Kitrin did too. Great. Wonderful. Yes. Terrific. Oh, I'm seeing some lovely messages here. And Ellen has the Asterisk shawl on her list. What else is here? Oh, thank you for the motivation to be a new stockist. Oh, terrific. That's great. Wonderful hour spent with you, Daphne. Jean, you too. Thank you. Terrific host, and picked out a few items I would like to knit. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, really lovely messages. Oh, that's really great. Thank you so much. Well, I don't see anything else other than just lots of thank yous, and highly recommended lore to everyone. Linda says, yes, me too. Normally I wear lore, but I thought every single webinar I do, I wear lore. So today I picked this lovely Acadia pullover to wear here. But Lore is my go-to yarn for winter around here because it's a woolen spun yarn and really lightweight and yet really warm. So good. Lovely way to spend the hour. Thank you, Helen. Thank you to everyone. Yes, and Cindy's asking what I'm wearing here. And this is actually called the Withup sweater. And I think it was designed by Sari Norland. Might be wrong on that. Withup, W-H-Y or W-Y-T-H-O-P. That's a place name in this area. And it's knit in Acadia. It has these baubles, stand up a little bit here, that go around the yoke. And it's nice and toasty warm. Yes. Oh, Marion, will you be doing a sale for this? No, we don't do sales generally. Marion, sorry, I missed your question earlier. Nice presentation and giveaways. Thank you. Does Lore or Cumbria pill? Yeah, you'll always find a little bit of pilling. Cumbria, I would say in Cumbria's case, the difference between the two is Cumbria is worsted spun and Lore is woolen spun. If you know the difference between those two spin techniques, if not, I'll just take a minute to explain them. The difference is that when something's woolen spun, the fibers are all, they're carded, but they're kind of just loosely organized as compared to a worsted spun yarn where the fibers are perfectly aligned and then they're combed to have all the short fibers fall out and keep all the fibers perfectly aligned, and then they're drawn out and twisted and then it may be plied into a yarn. And then a woolen spun yarn, because the fibers are loosely organized, they tend to create little air pockets in there. And that's why you can get a yarn that's quite warm but lightweight, because the air gets inside there and it gets trapped in there and keeps you warm, but it's a lightweight garment. So both of those yarns, then it depends on the type of fibers that are in there, and it depends on how tightly they're twisted as to how much they'll pill or not. In the case of Cumbria, we tend to create our yarns to be a little bit more under processed rather than over processed. So we like, because when we had our mill, we were at what they called a semi-worsted. So the carder attempted to align the fibers, but we didn't have a comb in the process. So you didn't get them perfectly aligned. And because of that, you won't get those short fibers that drop out. So sometimes short fibers dropping out or short fibers mixed with long fibers can create pilling. But that wasn't my point. My point was with pilling and our yarns today and the way we create our yarns, we try to get that artisanal look that we used to get with our mill. And so we tend to under process. Yarns that don't pill at all are often fibers that are very long. They're twisted tightly into a very thin, and then multiple plies. And if you've ever looked at a yarn like that, they look very processed, over processed to me. So we like yarns that have a vintage look, but with that comes a little bit of pilling, but it's all right. You just have your sweater care products, and you comb them out and every now and then in your rough areas, elbows and maybe underarms and that sort of thing, but it's not anything. And then it settles down after a while. Would Cumbria worsted be a good choice for the Storm Hood cowl? Storm Hood cowl. I don't think I know the Storm Hood cowl, but if that pattern calls for a worsted weight yarn, Cumbria would be an excellent yarn because it really feels nice next to the skin. And it is we have a beautiful cowl knit in Cumbria coming up for our autumn collection that we're going to be photographing on Monday. And so, yes, I would say I don't know the Storm Hood cowl, but it sounds like it might be a cowl with a hood as well. And I think it would be great. I think it would be perfect for that, as long as it's a worsted weight yarn. That's the big key. And if it's a worsted weight yarn, you're probably going to get something close in the gauge or tension that the designer has put in there. So yeah, thank you for that question. And what else do we have in here? Yes, Millicent loves the bobble sweater. Thank you, Millicent. Yeah, I like this color. I tend to during my normal work week, I wear browns and navies and browns and navies and types. When I went down to pick up when I looked at the list to see what samples were in the house today, I said, purple, let's get a purple one. So it's fun to wear a flash of color like this. I don't always, but I'm enjoying it today. And Jerry says that I've made a lot with Lore and it's a fave. Oh, thank you. It's totally my fave too. Fave to knit with and fave to wear. Yeah, wonderful. Yes, and there's been a link to the with a pattern added. Thank you, everyone. I don't see any more open questions and nothing that's been added to the chat. So, and we've come up on our hour and a lot of folks have dwindled away, but I do thank you again for coming and wish you many happy hours ahead of knitting bliss and joy. Bye for now.